I would love to share a story with you about something that I did when I was 16 years old that completely threw my parents for a loop. But in hindsight, strict parents create sneaky kids. I was 16 years old. I had an iPod. I don't think I had a phone yet. If I did have a phone, it didn't have internet access, but I had this iPod that you could have games on it. Really, I just listened to music on this iPod. But the games that I would download, there would be ads at the top. And so even though my iPod was like completely restricted from like Safari or internet searches, if I clicked on one of the ads, it would pull up a website and then I could manipulate the www dot in that website and I could go to whatever website I want. Of course, my parents had no idea. Well, I was raised by very strict parents, and they did not really allow me to do very much outside of school and sports. And so, and I grew up in a school that was K through 12. And so, because of that, because I wasn't really allowed to hang out with kids outside of school because my parents were afraid of every single parent and every single home outside of school. I wasn't ever allowed to attend like sleepovers, or I wasn't really invited to like hang out or like go home with people. And so that kind of like grew up with me as I just was the kid that couldn't do anything. And so even at 16, I wasn't really invited to any hangouts. I didn't have a ton of friends. I had one best friend. And then I would just hang out with people at school. Well, I felt very lonely as a 16-year-old. And so I remember one night I had an ad that popped up across the top and I clicked on it, and I literally went to Google and I typed in chat with random people. And if you knew the chatting sites back in the early 2010s, so it was like 2009, 2010, Omegle was the first thing that popped up. And my little sheltered self went on Omegle, and of course, there's anyone and everyone on Omegle. People are sending nasty things. People are sending regular things. But somehow through Omegle, I met this guy. And I don't remember how we connected further from Omegle. There was another chatting site that we used, but I met this guy, and I was 16 at the time. And you could share like photos on Omegle. So of course, like bad photos were being shared, not from me, but like other predators were sending bad photos. And you could, if you got a bad photo, you could just exit out of that Omegle chat and start over. And so that's what I would do. Well, I ended up meeting this guy. We chatted for a long time on Omegle, like late at night, and then somehow we were able to continue talking. And I don't remember how that happened. I think it was through another app or something. Like I made a profile on another app so I could keep talking to this guy. Well, I lived in the Texas Panhandle at the time. My grandma lived in San Antonio. She doesn't live there anymore. And I had been talking to this guy who was probably 21 or 22. So he was an adult. I was 16, talking to him. And really, I was talking to him because he was just nice and he would listen to me and he was my friend. And really, it didn't we weren't like sexual or any of that. I think I remember saying that we would talk about like, oh, like if we were together, like we could date, blah, blah, blah. Oh my gosh. Now, as a 32-year-old person, I'm like, oh my gosh, that's so scary. Anyway, so we're chatting, and my family has planned a trip to go down to San Antonio, Texas to visit my grandma, which is where he lives. He lives in San Antonio. My grandma lives in San Antonio. So we had conspired a plan. Okay, I was 16 or 15. I can't remember. I was 15, 16, 17, somewhere in there, that I would sneak out of my grandma's house because I think my parents Like they went on vacation or they went somewhere for a couple nights and we were just going to stay with my grandma. So I was going to sneak out of my grandma's house and meet this guy. Well, two caveats to this plan were she lived in like, not only did she live in a gated area, but her house was gated, like it closed, like her driveway. And so as I'm like trying to sneak out that night, I'm like, how am I going to get through the gate? Ended up like squeezing through the gate because I was really skinny. I'm still skinny, but skinny enough to just squeeze through the gate. And I had seen pictures of him before, so I remember thinking to myself, if I look in the car and it doesn't look like him, I'm not going to get in the car. Because I was nervous, but I wasn't as nervous as I should have been. You know what I mean? So I'm looking at the car and I can't see inside of the car. And so I'm like, whatever. And so I just get in the front seat. And it was him. It was the guy that I've been talking to. And he was like a young adult. He was like 21 or 22 or 23. He picked me up and he drove me to Whataburger. And I still to this day, like it's almost like a state of, I was so freaked out because I knew like I had just put myself in a really bad situation. Like he could drive off with me right now and kidnap me. Especially being a minor because I was not an adult yet. And we went to Whataburger or something. And I remember we sat there, but I think he could tell I was so nervous that I was like, just take me back. Like, I'm so scared. And he took me back. And months later, like my parents found out, I don't know how they found out. Maybe they were going through my phone or I don't know. Everything was locked down. So somehow they found out that I was talking to this guy, and then all hell broke loose. And that's a story for another day. But strict parents make strict kids, and that is something that I have learned in adulthood. And as a parent, I'm such a whirlwind of like, because I was grown up in such a strict home, how do I effectively be a parent going forward without giving too much freedom, but also not being so strict that my kids feel like they have to sneak around. But anyway, thanks for coming to my story time. And don't be a strict parent because strict parents make sneaky kids. Okay, bye.